The Beaver Pond by Alvin Tresselt. Illustrated by Roger Duvoisin. The beavers had made the pond in the first place. Here in a hidden valley, where a small stream wandered through a grove of aspen trees, the beavers built a dam. With their sharp teeth, they cut down young aspen trees to eat the bark. Then they dragged the trunks and branches to the brook for the dam. They crisscrossed the sticks just so, and plastered them over with mud and stones to hold back the rushing water of the stream. Larger and larger the pond grew, and in the middle of the still water the beavers built their domed houses, with tunnels under the water so no enemies could get in. In time, green reeds sprang up along the shore. They waved their pointy fingers in the breeze, and red-winged blackbirds came to hide their nests in the rustly grasses. Ducks came too, for the beaver pond was a good place for ducklings to swim and dive. Fish swam down the stream into the pond, and a blue kingfisher perched on a limb to watch for fish for his dinner. Lacy-winged dragonflies hovered and darted over the water. In the evening, as the frogs sang their grumpy songs, the deer came with their babies to drink the water of the pond. And black-masked raccoons prowled the water's edge for tasty crayfish. It didn't matter to the beavers who used their pond. There was room for everyone, and the beavers were too busy fixing the dam and repairing their houses and raising their babies to notice their neighbors. The paddling ducks, the sunning turtles, and the slippery green frogs sitting on lily pads meant nothing to them. But while they worked, one old beaver kept careful watch for the wolf. He worried about the soft-footed lynx, and his nose warned him of the stealthy wolverine. With a thwack, his tail slapped the water, and the beavers dove for the shelter of their houses. Then one by one their heads popped up. Chirping and whistling, they discussed the danger that was past, and back to work they went, while the beaver babies swam and splashed in the limpid green light of their underwater world. Then the late summer days felt the first nip of frost, and the beavers were busier than ever, cutting down more and more of the young aspens. They dragged the branches into the water and buried them in the mud at the bottom of the pond. The tender bark would be their food through the bitter days of winter. Now was the time for the ducks and the blackbirds to fly off to the southland. The sumacs flamed scarlet, the aspens turned to gold, and the frosted reeds rattled dryly in the cold wind. The frost bit deeper and deeper into the ground as a sheet of ice spread over the top of the pond, and the frogs slept deep in the mud at the bottom. The winter snows swept down, filling the hollows and covering the secret runways of field mice. The frozen earth slept under the snow. The pond slept under the ice, and the beavers were safe from the wolf, the prowling lynx, and the wolverine under the icy roof of the pond and the frozen domes of their houses. But each spring the pond came back to life. The melting winter snows and ice brought high water, and the beavers worked frantically, making their dam higher and stronger so that the water wouldn't sweep it away. And each spring there were more beaver families with their babies and new beaver houses. The birds returned to build new nests. The water quivered with young pollywogs and baby fish. Again the mother deer picked their way through the carpet of spring flowers to bring their new fawns to drink. But slowly, slowly, year by year, things changed at the pond. The ever-running stream brought more than fish and water. It carried with it fine dirt, which settled on the bottom. and little rivulets of muddy water drained into the pond every time it rained. As the years passed, the pond grew smaller and more shallow. Little by little, the reeds and cattails along the shore moved out into the water. At last the pond grew too small for all the beavers. Farther and farther they had to roam from the safety of the water in search of trees to cut down for their food. And the wolf, the lynx, and the wolverine grew bolder as they crouched and waited for their prey. So it was that in the early summer off went the beavers down the stream to find a new place for their home. They left behind their long dam of sticks and mud and their empty beaver houses sitting in the water. No longer did the chirps and whistles sound across the pond. No longer did the sharp slap of their tails warn of danger. And no longer were there bustling beavers to repair the dam when the high spring water flooded into the pond. But the other small creatures still stayed. The pond was big enough for frogs and fish. The dragonflies still zoomed back and forth, and the raccoons came cautiously at night, looking for crayfish. One early spring day, when all the snow had melted, suddenly a great flood of water came roaring down the stream into the pond. Over the old dam it poured, and the rotted sticks and branches could not hold the weight. The torrent of water raced on down the brook, and what was left of the pond went flowing out through the break in the dam. Once more the stream ran free. Bit by bit the muddy floor of the old pond turned green. Young plants sprang up in the rich earth, and where once a pond had caught and held the blue sky, there spread a green and grassy meadow with a brook meandering through it. But farther down, the beavers had already built a new strong dam, and a new pond sparkled in the sunlight. Frogs and fishes, turtles and hovering dragonflies enjoyed its waters. Red-winged blackbirds nestled in its rushes as ducks paraded their new babies proudly. And in the cool evening light, the mother deer brought their young ones to the edge of the pond to drink. The end.